Today we'll be looking at how the story of GTA 5 would have played out if Trevor was in Michael's shoes and Michael was in Trevor's shoes. Now, what do I mean by that, you may ask? Well, we will see how things would play out if Trevor was the one who had a family and Michael wasn't. Now, I know this may sound absolutely insane, but we can see in the game that Trevor actually viewed Michael's family as his own and was really protective of his kids specifically. With that said, let's get into it. So, the first part is actually going to be based off of something that Trevor said during a hangout with Franklin, I believe. And it's something along the lines of that he would have killed Brad at one point or another, although the authorities or the feds or whoever would never have been involved in that whole thing. So knowing that a reality where Trevor does a deal with the feds is completely off the table, what would he do? Well, for starters, he would probably have to break the news to the crew. And let's start with Michael. Michael would, in my opinion, probably be the easiest one to deal with and the most understanding out of the whole crew. Lester would probably just not care since the two aren't really that close, but they tolerated each other for business reasons, so there's that. But the one that would probably be the hardest to deal with would be Brad. Brad would likely, considering the piece of shit he is, at some point or another say something creepy about Trevor's family, and he also would never want Trevor to leave the criminal game. And knowing Trevor, how protective and sort of short-tempered he is, he probably would be even more so when it comes to his own family, so I think that would result in him killing Brad, let's say in a similar fashion to how he killed Johnny K. And I think that would mark the end of Trevor in the criminal game. I think that would be the end of that lifestyle for him. That's when he would decide to call it quits. And unlike Michael, Trevor does not have the protection from the feds like Michael did, since like I said, in my eyes there is absolutely no chance of Trevor ever making a deal with the feds. Also, if you're enjoying this video right now, please make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps me out a ton. Also, if you want to support the channel in a different way, please go ahead and check out my channel memberships. All of the channel members will get a special shout out in form of a credits like screen at the end of each and every one of my videos. And while I'm saying this, I also want to say that this idea was recommended to me by one of you guys in the comments. I apologize I couldn't find your name or the comment because it's been a while since I got that comment, but thank you nonetheless to whoever it is that actually recommended me this video idea. Let's get back into it. So while Michael in the original was able to stay in Los Santos in a luxurious mansion in Rockford Hills for literally almost 10 years, Trevor would likely have to sort of keep moving around because, like I said, he doesn't have that protection from the feds, and I do think that he would eventually be able to settle somewhere quiet like Sandy Shores after years of moving, because in the original that's also the case. You do know that before the prologue, Trevor is wanted still. Like, they are still the most wanted criminal trio on the East Coast or the Midwest, so even after him leaving the game, he would still be a wanted man and would likely have to keep moving for a few years until they would eventually, I think, stop looking for him. And in this reality, there was no betrayal or any kind of lies between the two, although I do think that the two would still not see each other for a few years, as like I said, Trevor would be out for a time. But what about Lester and Michael, the duo? Well, they would likely continue robbing for maybe another 5 to 10 years before getting to a point where they have more money than they could spend in their entire lifetime. So they would likely both settle down in Los Santos at some point. Now, keep in mind, in this reality, there is no feds involved, and Michael is rich and does not have a family, meaning that Michael and Lester would be sort of the main characters of this story, along with Trevor, of course. Michael would never meet Franklin in this reality, or cross paths with Dave, or Devin Weston, or Steve Haynes, or pretty much any of the main antagonists. They would never really appear in this. Instead, we would be placed in a time where Michael and Lester would want to end their criminal lives, but not before being ready to go out with a bang. This way, I imagine the game sort of split into 3 main story arcs. The first one would focus on the intro, in which, of course, everything that happens with Michael and Trevor and Brad at the beginning before the time of the main game. And it would also contain the first few robberies that Michael and Lester would do during the actual game's timeline. The second sort of third would focus on them starting plans on the UD heist, the big one, and also tracking down Trevor, which would of course be done by Lester. They would eventually track him down, ask him if he wants to go on the big one, which he would accept, and that would definitely be one last job for them all. and they would reach out to Trevor because at the end of the day, it was also his dream to do the big one with them, and that's pretty much the only reason that they would even contact Trevor in the first place. And the final part of the game would probably focus on all of the sort of final planning, the finishing touches, everything that has to do with the big one, the UD heist, and the last mission in this reality would be the big one itself, of course. And from here on out, all of them would be out of the criminal game with no bad guys, because no one would get involved with the feds in this reality. The three could live out their lives as longtime partners, friends, and not having to ever worry about money or anyone ever going after them. All of this would cost them never meeting Franklin, of course, and Trevor being the one with the family and not Michael, which I know it sounds weird, and it probably would be weird, but that's a whole other video. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching this GTA 5 crazy weird what if video that was recommended I do by one of you guys. Thank you so much for contributing this idea. You will know who you are. Until the next video stream, bye bye.